So our reading today is from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 19. Just going to invite you to listen to this reading today. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, "He's gone to the house to be the guest of a sinner." But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, "Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I've cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount." Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost." One of the ways that we can engage with a passage like this is to use our imagination to enter into the story. And this story, this encounter, invites us to enter the scene with all of our senses, connecting with what we can imagine we see, but also connecting with the emotions of the characters involved and noticing their responses. And in a moment, we'll do just that together as I lead us in a reflection that will invite us to use our God-given imagination to enter into this story. But before, just a very brief thought about something that might be worth noticing. We can tell from what we've just heard that people didn't reckon much of Zacchaeus. His job made him unpopular, an outcast, a loner. But Jesus noticed him, and that noticing of him meant everything. Being invisible is no fun. I was that kid in the lineup at school when it was games, when the teams were picked. There were 2 or 3 of us always left at the end. You may relate to that. If you do, we'll form a support group afterwards. Or you may have been the one doing the picking. I'll have a word with you afterwards. But if by some miracle, and it would have been a big miracle, if by some miracle I had been the first person to be chosen for that football team or rugby team or whatever it was, how would that have felt? Jesus notices Zacchaeus out of this whole crowd and invites him to his house. "I'm coming to your house today." And then at the end of the story, salvation has come to this house, says Jesus. And that was it. This visit from Jesus to this man's house was enough. Enough for Zacchaeus just to open up and express what he needed to express about the change of heart that he knew he needed to make. That might have been brewing for a while, or it might have happened just like that. We don't know. It doesn't really matter. Jesus' visit to his house was enough. Salvation comes to his house. Healing comes to his house. Jesus didn't just do miracles of healing. He was healing. He is healing. Jesus didn't just go around speaking good news. He was good news. Everywhere he went, he embodied good news, and still does. In this encounter, there is no real evidence of great teaching or a sermon or great words of wisdom that Jesus shared. He just notices. Zacchaeus responds. That was enough. Lovely. And when we respond to his noticing of us, salvation arrives. Healing comes knocking at the door. So today, as we enter now into this imaginative reflection, may each of us know ourselves seen and noticed, affirmed and loved. And may our response to his noticing of us bring us salvation and peace. So I'm going to invite you just to remain seated. You might like to close your eyes. You might like to keep them open. You might like to sit on the floor, kneel on the floor, whatever is most comfortable for you, as I read the passage again and lead us in the reflection. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus, a chief tax collector, and he was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. So I invite you to imagine the bustling streets of Jericho. Hear the crowd. Feel the heat. And sense the murmur of the people around you as word spreads that Jesus is coming. And here is Zacchaeus, hindered by his reputation and possibly his height. Picture him if you can. Consider the emotions that might be stirring in him as he climbs his tree. He wants to see Jesus, but maybe more, he wants to be seen by Jesus. So where do you place yourself in this scene? Are you in the crowd? Are you with Zacchaeus in his tree? What emotions rise within you as Jesus walks through the crowd? I'm coming to your house today. Ponder this profound moment of personal invitation. What feelings arise for you as you share this moment with Zacchaeus? Perhaps a moment where Jesus has called you by name. Zacchaeus' encounter with Jesus leads to deep conversion. In response to Jesus' love and acceptance, he commits to making amends and turning his life around. How does this speak into your life today? Today, salvation has come to this house. So let your prayer now be a heartfelt conversation with Jesus. And listen as he speaks words of love and welcome and invitation to you.